G'day viewers, I want to have an intellectual discussion with you tonight and I think you're up for it. So some heavy stuff I'm going to be laying down here, so stick with me on this. Now, where I'm coming from in this particular discussion is the way that a lot of people tend to disparage people who disagree with them, find some reason to find that they're stupid, ignorant, arrogant, elitist, all those sorts of things, and they don't seem to give people full reign. And at this point, people are going, what are you talking about? You just make videos where you tell people to shut the fuck up. I'm just someone making funny videos on the internet, okay? In my day-to-day life, I don't relate to people like this. And that's intended to be humorous when I just abuse people. I'm actually speaking my very true mind when I do that, but this is showing the sensitive and deep thinking side of me. And these aren't things I thought of on my own. I've been doing a bit of reading on the topic. Some psychological studies. Now, if you read the papers, watch the news and stuff, over the last 6 to 12 months, you may have seen a couple stories that basically said, oh, psychologists prove conservatives are dumb, or psychologists prove conservatives are cowards or something. And whereas the studies did no such thing, but that was an easy, cheap tagline for people to use, what these studies were all about were about patterns of thinking. And when I saw a lot of the reactions to them, to me, the simple and obvious mistake that a lot of the interpretations made were saying that a lot of people who adhere to conservative values can be seen to think in this particular way, which could be described as simplistic, then that means they're stupid, and the stupid is what makes them conservative. Whereas really what the studies were saying when they read objectively were, people with this thought pattern tend to have this sort of allegiance, and people with this sort of thought pattern have this sort of allegiance. In other words, these studies were showing the groundbreaking truth that different people think differently. Whoa! This article I want to talk about, I'll provide a link to it, is from a site called Overcoming Bias that talks about psychology, psychological study, and I found it from a link that was being all snarky saying, ooh, maybe this explains Sarah Palin supporters. And actually it kind of does, but the article is nowhere near as snarky as the link I found it on. What it's positing, it's just a theory, and it revolves around evolutionary psychology, so you're taking a whole bunch of stuff for granted if you pay any attention to this. We're saying hunter-gatherer societies tended to form into tribes. There's no more than about 200 people, and they didn't have a really separated hierarchy. Probably the strongest person was leading the tribe, but there wasn't a huge separation. And in fact, in terms of experience, things you knew, saw, experienced, you were almost never more than one person removed from an experience. Like everything that happened, either you experienced it yourself, or you knew one person directly who'd experienced it and they'd related an exact thing to you. So it wasn't, you weren't reading stuff from books. There wasn't even really language. There's certainly not written words. So it was not, the wisdom of the ages. It was the wisdom of the person next to you. They either experienced it themselves or they came into contact with one person who experienced it. So when people said stuff, it's stuff that you didn't have to take on faith because it's stuff you'd see. Your day-to-day life didn't vary that much and you could see the truth in this stuff. So this particular line of thinking goes, there are still some people who are essentially working on that level, that they're only accepting things that they see themselves or someone they trust implicitly has seen themselves or claims to have seen themselves. This manifests in all sorts of different ways in political groups. Even on a lot of internet sites, you've got these people who say, oh, photos or it wasn't real, video or it wasn't real. So while it's easy to deride this and say, oh, you're simple-minded, you don't believe the scientists or, the leaders or whatever. But obviously this sort of, wanting to, I'll put my little biblical reference in here, wanting to put your fingers in the wounds type stuff, wanting to experience stuff firsthand, can actually be really helpful to you because, well, people talk bullshit. And if you don't implicitly trust the person telling you something, well, then why shouldn't you need more? But of course, the other end of that is like, for instance, science. Science can't exist on what you personally see or what one other person sees, because science builds on bodies of knowledge. Like, yes, scientists are after knowledge themselves, but they don't keep reinventing the wheel. It's like, okay, a certain principle is developed and it gets accepted after a while, and then someone builds on that and builds on that knowledge. So a biologist doesn't need a long explanation of why evolution is the only viable explanation for the development of life on Earth. It's the simplest solution. When you look at all the evidence, evolution is the simplest solution. And a lot of scientists and people science-minded can say, yeah, look, you know what? All the study, all the science, it's the simplest solution. Crap like creationism and intelligent design has actually been actively disproved. And people come out with, ooh, but what if you don't know? Look, I've got an explanation, okay? I've got science. That's simple. And some people just won't go for that. They won't go, well, you say it's simple, but I don't know that it's simple. You're just saying that. It's just two different ways of thinking. And one is not inherently smart and one's not inherently stupid. Like, obviously, the scientific disciplines do go on this accepted body of knowledge, but it's the way you deploy it that matters too, because it's easy, and I'm absolutely guilty of this, thinking people are just stupid and pig-headed, and why the hell won't you accept this blatantly self-evident thing? Where that actually gets worse is a lot of the people who disagree with you aren't stupid per se, but they don't think in the same way as you. And I know me personally, and a lot of other people can't help basically treating these people like they're stupid. And a lot of them aren't, and they're not stupid to the extent they can think, oh, that self-important elitist prick up there thinks I'm stupid. He's condescending to me. And that's the other thing. When you are a sort of a highly educated person or come from a particular discipline and you're dealing with someone who's not at the same level of education as you, or not attuned to the same disciplines as you, it's very easy to start treating them like an idiot, and you fool yourself that they don't know that you're treating them like an idiot, and it's sometimes really obvious that you're being an arrogant prick about the whole thing. And that's where sometimes even people I agree with, now notably atheists fall under this category. I don't believe in God. I actually don't believe even that the concept of a God is important. A sensible atheist says, look, on the balance of evidence, there is nothing to support the existence of God. So I'm not going to believe in God because there's no sensible reason to believe in God. And a believer takes it all on faith. I'd actually take it one step further, and a believer could actually make God manifest, introduce God to me. And that's not going to make a whole bunch of difference to me, because I can't conceive of a supposed all-knowing, all-powerful being that wants me to get down on my knees and worship them, because that's a sort of human vanity and conceit. I would think an all-knowing, all-powerful being was somewhat above that. So that's my... Geez, I just went off track there. But that's my take on atheism and Godism and whatnot. I just don't think it's important, and the existence or not of God doesn't change my worldview. I started saying that because although I basically agree with atheists, atheists are really good at being dicks to religious believers. And a lot of times they deserve it. And that's, again, full circle, back to what I was saying before. Of course I'm guilty of it. When I do videos just telling people to shut the fuck up, it's because certain people, I'm sick of you, I don't want to waste any more time on you, so just shut the fuck up. You're meaningless to me. So I hope you've enjoyed today's deep and meaningful conversation, lightened up by how ridiculous I sound when I try and talk with my mouth gear in. Catch you later.